Hello, I'm Richard Devaney from the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth College. Welcome to a video series of interviews that I conducted with senior executives from many different industries. The series is called Strategic Insights, and the goal is to help you to understand what great CEOs are thinking about as the critical issues of today. I'm here with Dusty McCoy, the CEO of Brunswick International, and I would like to ask him a number of questions concerning strategic business sites that he talked about during my course on advanced competitive strategy. First, I couldn't help but notice how your background as an Army officer affected the way you think about strategy. Can you tell me what elements of strategy you took away from military strategy?
Yes. First, it's interesting. One doesn't understand that one's background always translates into how one develops business strategy, but actually in my conversation with you today and in speaking to the students, a few things really did begin to pop up. First, my experience in the Army, as a lieutenant, then ultimately a captain, was you got to take it to the competition, or take it to the enemy, actually. And while I don't view the competition as the enemy, this real belief that you win by being the aggressor, certainly in the time that I was in the military, was the way I was trained, and it just naturally fit with my personality, and it's worked very well in business. So it's don't play defense, play offense, understand the weaknesses of your competition, anticipate their moves, and then get there ahead of them. And that's something the Army taught me in spades from ROTC in college, right on through the time I was in active duty, and then even in the reserves. So I guess subconsciously it became a part of the way I think and the way I act, and I'm fairly indebted to the Army for that, actually.
I have some other questions that I'd like to ask you concerning Brunswick. It's a common question about the diversity of your businesses and what they have to do with each other. Bowling, billiards, fitness equipment, and boats and engines. How do you make that portfolio work? What's the purpose of being in that diversity? Are there synergies between bowling and marine engines?
Well, we've never pretended or said that there were any real synergies between or amongst our businesses, except at the high staff level. So a lot of our functions, HR, legal, our treasury function, finance function, are run out of corporate, and we run common processes and systems through those functions. But then when we get into operations, no, there's realistically no real operating synergies either through supply chain, manufacturing, distribution, or really anything like that. On the other hand, we think it's important to run this portfolio, and generally, if we think about it on an annual basis and then strategically over a longer term basis, it begins to make sense. Our marine businesses are spring and summer businesses, and a good bit of our sales and certainly a good bit of our earnings in those businesses are generated in the spring and summer. Our fitness business is a fourth quarter, and we're a calendar year business. It's a fourth quarter based business. So it generates revenue and it generates earnings in a time when our marine businesses are at their lows. So it gives us a much more even earnings year as we go through the year. The bigger reason, though, that we think it's important to run this portfolio is they're counter-cyclical. As we went through the recent downturn we've been in, which began in 2008, and we're still gently recovering in the marine industry, we used the great strength we had in our fitness business and in bowling and billiards to be able to generate cash, to take care of debt, to make investments in our dealer network while being able to continue to invest in those businesses. When the marine businesses were doing very well, and what we call our recreation businesses, which would be bowling and light fitness, were not doing as well, we used the great cash flow we had out of our marine businesses to make significant investments in both those businesses. So in our bowling business, for instance, we were able to build at the tune of $10 to $12 million of building several what we call bowling extra large centers. We call them bowling XLs. And they were a tremendous success versus the rest of our bowling centers as we went through the downturn. We used the strength of our marine businesses to invest in R&D facilities for our fitness business, so that when we went through the downturn, our competition in the fitness business was generally weaker than we were able to use the great R&D capability we developed to leap ahead of the competition in both business, but installation and service. So for us, the portfolio works very well together. But again, we're unabashed about saying we don't have any real operating synergies amongst the businesses.
The Brunswick website talks a lot about stability as a key element of your company strategy. How have you achieved that, and does that make sense in a world where everything is so turbulent?
It does and it doesn't. The word stability is important for certain constituencies with whom we do business. So for instance, we distribute and sell most of our product through a distribution chain of dealers and distributors around the world. They need to feel like the person and the company who supplies them with product that is the foundation of their business will be there for the long term, will invest, will be prepared to assist them as they need to be assisted, will continue to have industry-leading product, and therefore they're looking for stability in their supplier. Our supply base, as an example, has very long supply chains or supply lines, undergo the same stresses that any businesses do, and they want to ensure that as they tool and invest capital in order to supply us, that they're with a business that is stable and functioning over the long term. Lastly, as we work through with our employees, they need to feel like they can have a career, they can raise their families, they can move as we need them to move, they can send their kids to college and ultimately save for retirement. Now, having said that, that's a word that is important and has certain meaning for certain reasons within our constituency. But we can never say that we're so stable that we won't change. And in fact, in the discussion we had with the students twice today, I hope the big thing I was able to impress and stress upon them is the need to change constantly. And one governs and meters the change one needs to make by going after the competition, not by waiting. And if one runs the business just to be stable, eventually one will be overrun by the competition. But stability is an important concept, but it's not the basis on which we run the business.